There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Enemy of Fate, and you are watching BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews, as always, you know that. Today I want to welcome Tiffany Fabiani, vocalist of Enemy of Fate, and they have released their 6-track EP entitled Settle the Score. And we have Tiffany on here to talk about all this good stuff because she's been on the road with this. She's not been just, look what I did. She's worked her ass off on this. So how excited are you to release this EP?
Thrilled, and I'm very proud of the end product that we ended up with and the stories told, and it was really full circle for me. So we're really excited to be bringing this to the public.
How good does it feel to see your songs come to life? Because I mean, like I said, you worked hard on these.
Yes. It was quite an emotional journey for me and a very cathartic process. This was new territory, new realm for me, this track. And we started with Dear Dad, which was our debut single released back in September of last year. And it was a song, obviously, that I wrote about an absent parent and the experiences that I went through growing up and into adulthood and the impacts that it had. So leading into that and other stories that were told through our tracks on the EP, it was really a healing process for me. And to share that out with the world so that others can take in my experiences and relate or do their own self-healing through that process was really important for me. So I'm very proud to be bringing it forward.
So releasing that song, was that your chapter that said, okay, I can move on, I've let go, and this is just my view on this now?
Yeah, I think it was my way of making peace with the turmoil of growing up with a parent who chose not to be a part of my life electively. It wasn't that he had passed away and wasn't a part. It's that he's actively living and choosing not to be a part of my life, and that came with a whole gamut of rough waters for me growing up and even into adulthood as I became a parent and struggling with the how could he not want to be a part of this life now, being a mother of myself to my own children. So yeah, that came full circle for me. It was almost as if Dear Dad was a letter written to him, like, this was my experience and you lost out and you made a choice that impacted me and I didn't deserve that, and I love myself despite of your choice not to be a part of my life. And so it's a sad story, but in full circle, it's really about healing and recovering from experiences. I think the whole EP really encapsulates that, we all go through experiences in life that are cards that are dealt to us that we have to, play our hand and make our life decisions. And what can we take away from those life experiences? It's how we develop as humans. So Dear Dad was definitely that for me, and kind of a letter of goodbye.
Speaking of that, have you had any responses from people saying, oh my God, I needed this song in my life. This is absolutely what I needed to say, and this has helped me through it also?
Absolutely. As an artist, and as a person, we're people first, right? We have our own feelings. This was a very intimate look into my life. And I'm not always outward in sharing my life with others, especially, people that we don't know. And I'm casting this very intimate and personal, deep experience out into the world, and you don't know how it's going to be received. So you leave yourself as an artist very vulnerable. And so it was a very scary, it was a fear of mine. Like, if this isn't received well, I'm pouring my heart and my life experiences and intimate look into my life out for the world, and what if they don't like it? The fortunate aspect of that, though, is that it was received so overwhelmingly with warmth and comfort and the outpouring that we received and I received in messages and text and in calls, in comments when we shared out the lyric video was just an affirmation for me that people could relate and help themselves heal or look at it from a different perspective and have clarity and understanding for others like myself who didn't have both, you know, blood relative parents in their lives and how that could impact someone. So yeah, I was fortunate that I was grateful that the response that we received was overwhelmingly positive and healing for others, which was ultimately the goal.
Do you think that song has knocked the door wide open for you guys now, or no?
I would like to think so. I think our track Devil's Prey really did that. That is also on the EP, but we released several of our singles out first before we released the entire EP. So Devil's Prey was definitely the one that kicked the door open. We had overwhelmed, like I couldn't even believe the numbers and streams and the numbers of comments and the engagement that song got from listeners was just it was like mind blowing, and it was overnight. So we were very excited. Not everybody understands the experience of having an absent parent. So it is intimate for those who do relate or who are seeking an understanding from that perspective. So in that essence, I think Dear Dad set the tone for the type of style and delivery that we were going to have. But I really feel like Devil's Prey was the one that really brought presence and awareness to the band and to my music.
You tried out for NBC's The Voice in 2019 and in 2021, but you didn't advance to the next round, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
How big of a statement is this EP for this band and you?
It's really, well, when we did the EP, I was a solo artist, so I didn't have a band. It was just me with a producer writing music and writing my story. So this particular EP is very intimate for me. So the statement being made for me is these are experiences in my life that I never spoke to and never fully addressed. And it was my opportunity, which is where Settle the Score comes from. It was my opportunity to put out there like, hey, you know, you did me dirty here, but you know what? I'm going to be okay. And I've learned and I'm stronger and I'm better and I'm wiser for it. And there's a lot of storytelling and experiences of life that are written into this particular EP. The beauty of my band, they're like my music brothers now. They are 100% on board and fully support the vision of this particular EP. And they were quick to jump on and fully support the direction that we wanted to go with the music and the sentiments and the delivery and the style.
Did the EP turn out exactly the way you wanted it to?
Yes, it did. Absolutely. I would have never put out a product that I wasn't 100% couldn't stand behind. Yeah. I think the delivery, our producer and composer, Nick Miller, he was the guitarist for A Skylit Drive, the original A Skylit Drive. He is a phenomenal producer and musical composer that could really take all of my thoughts and my emotions and create the foundation for the story to be told in a way that people can relate and enjoy the music. It doesn't have to be like these dark, sad, somber, you know, sad songs and stories. They could really be told in a way that was more empowering and positive. So our streams are like on heavy lifting gym music on Spotify. And I'm like, wow, family tree, really? Like, get out of here. So yes, I'm very 100% very proud. And there wouldn't be anything that I would change today, looking back.
What's the growth musically you've seen from yourself working on this EP that impresses you the most moving forward with more releases?
I think my experiences with auditioning for The Voice, it set me back, and it definitely bruises the ego, but more so created a greater self-doubt than I already had within myself, right? We all kind of grow up with this doubt in our abilities. And for me, in life circumstances, I was kind of programmed to not have faith in my own ability, right? So I went into this opportunity wanting to take it very seriously, but not having a lot of confidence in myself. So when we began to write, because like I said, I had never done this professionally before, And so I really had a team of champions to help rally and support. And the experience is taken away, and the way we wanted to deliver certain melodies and harmonies and the stories overall, I had a team that really helped develop vocally for the long term. In going into the next EP, you'll definitely hear a different sound. You'll hear more assertiveness. I think you'll have a lot more fun and playfulness in our tracks moving forward. So I was able to take a very base foundation of vocal ability and pivot it into different styles, kind of a grasp, a rasp, whispers, a softer sentiment in our song like Gravity. So those are things that I learned along the way. And you'll definitely see more of that going into our next EP.
But look at this. You're getting all these responses. If it doesn't put a smile on your face and be like, look, this is something I could never imagine, and I'm actually doing it myself, that should give you a boost of confidence you're doing it right.
Absolutely. And our fans have really been champions for me because they listen and they understand the history and the life that I've lived through this EP. And so they have really been champions of encouragement for myself and for our band. And the way they have rallied has just, I could have never asked for a better pool of fans than we have. So I very much appreciate that.
Was there a track for the EP that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to? Was there one that kept changing or no?
You know, originally, so I would say Ghost of Me is probably our most changed track. So we set motion with Ghost of Me with a particular style in mind that was very similar to like a Bullet for My Valentine track. That was kind of the foundation developed, right? And so when the end product was done, it became more of a theatrical, technical, techno track than I think we anticipated. I love the track nonetheless, but I do have listeners that are really want the traditional classic hard rock style that we had originally ventured in. So we are actually releasing Ghost of Me as a stripped down original version, and it will be released as original. So on the EP, you'll see that it's called a remix, which has more of the modern techniques to it. We call it the bells and whistles on that track. So it's very produced, but the stripped down version is just going to be like your banging classic hard rock metal style version of that particular track.
Any songs that didn't make this EP that you kept back for a later release, or maybe just a single down the road, possibly?
We did hold a few back, yes. And there were covers more covers significantly that we opted not to unfold. Creep was one of them. I felt like there were artists that were already approaching that very classic song, so I didn't want to oversaturate per se. And there were other contenders, but you will definitely hear an upcoming cover. I feel like relatability is important. And so for people to be able to enjoy our music and have it sound immediately familiar, like when we covered Breaking Benjamin's Breath, that was a very personal story for me. I lost my brother-in-law at the time to addiction and mental health. And so it was really important for me in the storyline of that song to interpret it in a way and deliver a message in maybe a way that the original didn't cover, and bring it current, because it's still such a powerful classic that it was deserving of a kind of a rebirth in a female's vocals. There were other contenders that didn't make the cut just because we didn't want to do too many covers at once. You'll probably hear like one, maybe two covers on our next EP, and that's only if we have enough of our own original music.
How crazy is it that I told you I was listening to Brandy Carlisle's cover of Creep, and then now you say you got, I mean, how crazy is that?
I know that I'm like, really? I got to go check that out.
Oh my God.
Hailstorm partnered with another female artist recently and covered Four Non Blondes, What's Up. That was also a cover contender, and that was actually the song that I auditioned with for The Voice, was Four Non Blondes, What's Up. So yeah, the popular ones are just, they get snatched up by really large artists. And so, again, it's an oversaturation thing. I think, they've been received really well for that cover. So, we allow them that space to breathe and not try to fight uphill with that.
But you know this just as well as I do. There's many songs out there on many great albums that are sleepers that should have been singles that weren't. And it's like, what do you mean this was not a freaking single? Those are the ones that people should be covering, honestly.
Yes, agreed.
I know these are your babies. I totally get that. But any track standing out more to you than any right now on the EP that are standing out for you, possibly?
They're all powerful and they all tell a story. They're all very personal and intimate stories that are reflections of life experiences of my own. So it would be hard to just pick one. I think the hardest journey for me to overcome is definitely our Devil's Prey track, because it was a relationship riddled with physical abuse, mental abuse, and I had to learn to reprogram myself and to get out of that situation and out of the mindset of feeling, trapped, and that there was no hope and that there was nowhere for me to go, and that this was what my life was intended to be. And that, from a personal perspective, was the greatest struggle to overcome and the biggest obstacle in my life to date. And so that one hits home the hardest for me. It's the most impactful track, but they all tell a significant, powerful story. Family Tree is about, relationships within my own family and my husband's family, and, the impacts that has had, on us. So they're tough contenders. They're all very deep.
Oh yeah, I can imagine for sure. Working on this EP for you, did anybody get something out of you that may have just been sitting there and finally was released through you, possibly? Did somebody get something out of you that nobody else could have gotten, possibly?
I would say our business partner, Alan Wheeler, is also an artist. He played in Shorty. He played in several major bands that were touring for many years. So he has his own project out, and it's solely Veil. And he is a solo artist now. He was one of the contributors to the writing of the tracks that you hear on the EP. And he came over, funny story, and I will try to make it short. He came over to my house one day with his acoustic guitar. And he said, I got an idea for a riff for you, and I want you to just listen to the tune and see what you can come up with. So he starts strumming his guitar. About 5 minutes later, he's like, you got anything? And I said, I got nothing. I don't know what you want me to do with it. He goes, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to keep playing this guitar until a melody comes up into your head. Because I'd never written before. So you have to remember, like, very green experiences all the way around full circle for this whole project. So I finally start getting a tune in my head, vocally, like where I wanted to go with this melody. He goes, okay, hum it for me. So I start humming, this sound's coming out of my mouth. And he's like, okay, very good. So I get that. And then he starts strumming some more. He goes, now I want you to think about words that you want to put to this melody, to this guitar riff. And we landed at Gravity. So it was actually a very soft acoustic guitar melody. And I wrote the melody and the words for that song, which was a tribute to my husband. So yeah, I could not have gotten to that very soft, delicate level without that situation having, happened. It's in our living room, over a beer.
See, he knew exactly what he was doing.
He was. Yes. He hustled. He bamboozled me. But I'm very proud of that. And yeah, it was a message to my husband that I wanted him to know. I'm so thankful for who he is as a person. He's my biggest cheerleader and my biggest fan. When I want to curl up and hide and give up on myself, he's right there shoving me back out the door like, go, you got this. So yeah. So I'm very proud of the track.
Are you still experimenting with your sound? Is there anything that you still want to go after, possibly?
Absolutely. I am working to learn more of the unclean vocals. If you listen to our cover of Breath, there's a part where Benjamin has this vocal fry, right? And he's doing this very theatrical part in the bridge that I couldn't achieve vocally. I wanted to, but I wasn't there yet. And so there are certain techniques in a theatrical vocal sound that I'm working on, unclean, vocal fry, and just holding notes longer, higher register. So that all comes with time and tenure. And so while we've got this break and we're building new music, I'm also training to have a different delivery vocally.
What does each of you bring to this band that just makes that chemistry work, that these are the guys?
I think it's just a level of honesty and transparency. I think for all of us, we are unapologetically ourselves. And this is me. You take it or you leave me, but this is who I am, and this is what I bring. And we're all very supportive of one another. We're all very passionate about music. We all feel like it's important in music to share intimate experiences and stories and deliver that to the world, so that someone who is struggling can find solace in knowing they aren't alone. And to be rallied with a group of men that really champion that style, I'm very proud. So that I think is what makes us gel the most. And if somebody doesn't like something, they don't hold back. And I appreciate that they treat me like one of the guys. They're not delicate. They don't pussyfoot around me because I was a solo artist who doesn't play an instrument. I'm not looked down to, and I appreciate that about them.
Isn't it beautiful how music is just therapy for anybody and everybody out there? I mean, the interview before this, we were talking about Master of Puppets by Metallica, on how that album saved my life and how this album influenced this guy that I just interviewed, how big of an impact it made him. And here we are in 2024 still talking about that album that was released 30 or 40 years ago. And I mean, it's still making a huge impact today,
Absolutely. That is a phenomenal album. I love Metallica. Absolutely. There isn't a moment in my life that I can reflect on there isn't a song or a moment in time where there was a melody playing in the background that I don't remember. And so from birth to marriage to death, there are always moments monumentalized by music. And it's the one element in this world that we can all rally around and appreciate about one another. Talking to you about, Metallica or Pearl Jam's Black album. That was a big one for me.
Yeah.
To be able to relate, if you're polar opposite ends of the political, party lines, you can still come together through music and still recognize and appreciate things about one another that you take away from that music. So yeah, it's amazing. I'm so grateful for it. And I was a dancer before singing. And so my love of music is vast because, I used to deliver my appreciation for music in the form of movement in art form. So to be able to come kind of full circle again and deliver it in the form of music creation of my own is really such an honor. And I take it very seriously. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do that.
People can hate on me all they want to when I say this, but Pearl Jam's Black album to me is right up there with Master of Puppets because, Master of Puppets to me is a perfection album. I mean, that album is absolutely perfect. Couldn't get any better. And then here comes Pearl Jam many years later. They've got Black. I mean, that's another one. It's like, wow.
Yellow Ledbetter. I mean, there's every track is precision in my opinion. And they were coming in in a time when, grunge was just, it's new, that was the Seattle scene, right? That was what you did in Seattle. And if you weren't doing that, and you didn't do it well, then you weren't really someone to be recognized or, forced to be reckoned with. So Nirvana, they paved a way for other artists to be comfortable to deliver a unique style. And they kind of paved the way for kind of a lot of artists today, myself included. I think we landed from grunge to more of an alternative rock and a new metal style that encompasses both. So I really appreciate their music overall. And I 100% agree with you.
I really think
otherwise, forget about it.
I really think that they made music lovers, just as far as a music lover, made everybody feel it was okay to like a different style of music other than heavy metal? Because at the time, heavy metal was gone. I mean, there was very few metal bands around that would still keep going. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you ended up with more of the glam rock than you did with heavy metal,
Sure.
right? So you had like Warrant, and you had, I think I was just talking with somebody recently about this. I think Cherry Pie was the last glam rock song that ever made it onto MTV. And then once that track went, it like completely annihilated kind of the hair bands, the 80s style glam rock. It was gone, and off into grunge we went. And then it was Lollapalooza, and it busted the scene, completely busted open into something that was so new and raw and edgy. The emo kids, it was an amazing transition. So totally agree with that.
Speaking of the tracks, as you just said about Pearl Jam's Black, is the track listing placement important for your album or EP releases going forward?
It is. I think we were very methodical on how we wanted to deliver the songs on the Settles the Score EP. And I think for any artist, track placement is important, because as listeners and as fans and lovers of music, we have a certain expectation, right? First track is usually like an intro or something kind of oddball. And then you get into the second and third track that are just fillers, but aren't that great. And then, to get somebody to listen to the good shit, they got to get to the end of the album. Track 9, 10, 11 are where the power hitters are. So we were very intentional in putting our, stronger, more intensive music up front. So you could really encapsulate our style like right out of the gate. And so we ended up with doing the cover track towards the end. It's only 6 songs, but strategically, we did the cover towards the end because it isn't an original song. It was a nod to Breaking Benjamin, but it is in our track. And so we felt like the end placement was more important. And then to bring it all full circle with our first release, which was Dear Dad, was why that one was placed at the end.
I know I'm probably going to know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. But what has been the toughest or best song that you have written, possibly, in your own opinion?
Oh, I've got to go with our first single,
Okay.
Dear Dad. Our release, our Dear Dad track, really, I had never written a song before in my life. And I had a week and a half before I was in studio with the producer. The way that kind of came full circle, it was like, we need to get you in the studio and we're going to do it now. So I'm going to get you in with the producer. You've got 2 weeks. Start thinking about what you want to write about or what you want to sing about. And then as a team, collectively, we'll create this art for you. And I was like, oh shit, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to sing about? What kind of style? And one day when I'm in the kitchen, just sitting by myself, I just started writing notes, random things. And then all of a sudden I realized all of these notes were reflective of my father. And in about 30 minutes after that, I had written the song. So, and went into the production studio, my first time ever stepping in a studio, and we're sitting at a round table and, we're talking about strategy, and Alan comes up with a riff, and it's kind of a powerful melodic style, and it fit the story. Nobody knew I had written a song. So I looked up and they're talking about the direction of the track that they want to go. And I'm like, excuse me. Hi, over here in the corner. Just want to let you know, I wrote a little something down on a piece of paper and here you go. What do you think? And they read it and said, that's the one. And so that for me was probably the most impactful, because it was so many firsts for me and so much closure for me. That was definitely the power hitter.
Now we're going to get to know Tiffany, just about Tiffany. We're going to throw everything else out the door here. So we may want to find out. We may not want to find out. We're going to see. We're going to pull these triggers here. So,
oh boy.
Here we go. If you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be? What album would you say you would like to write close to, possibly?
Oh man, don't do that to me. That's quite a question I never saw coming, but it's a good question.
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't put that on me. You know, Stevie Wonder had an album that my mom used to play me growing up as a kid. And I know that seems far-fetched, but Stevie Wonder is amazing. And I would definitely go with the I'm gonna have to Google it. I think it's Aquarium. I think it's Aquarium is the name of the album by Stevie Wonder, and to be able to do an album similar to that would be an honor. So my style is very eclectic, and I would say that I'm not boxed into anyone's style. I grew up on Motown. I was a hip hop girl, 90s baby, grunge rock to, the 80s, hard rock, classic rock, you name it. I listened to it. So yeah, I know that's kind of an oddball, but definitely would go back to the Motown roots of Stevie Wonder.
No, I like hearing that stuff. I
Yeah.
love hearing that stuff because, you're singing one genre of rock, metal, stuff like that. But
Mhm.
you throw this curveball in, it's like you listen to jazz, you listen to Motown, all that, you're like, what? And you play
Mhm.
this type of music?
Yeah. Well, it all has a foundation, right? It
Exactly.
all
Mhm.
a lot of my music has Southern roots, and Motown is a foundation of Southern roots that go back to gospel music that has morphed. So any kind of style of today's music has a foundation somewhere, be it country or Southern rock or just Southern gospel. So that is definitely a lot of where you'll hear kind of those more funky beats coming in where you're like nodding your head rather than banging your head. I would definitely say that's where it comes from. Another one would be Hotel California by the Eagles. Um,
Oh, cold, buddy.
I mean,
Yeah.
you just from start to finish, that is probably one of my favorite albums ever in all time, and I could probably sing it front to back, word for word.
Man, you're hitting on some stuff that I talked about just recently on a podcast of mine. I was like, Hotel California, just for example, you just mentioned it. I was like, how many kids to this day heard that guitar solo and was like mesmerized, like, I can do that on a guitar? I mean, if I'm getting chills on me by even thinking about that song.
Mhm.
That the everything, the setup of the paranormal in that and the whole occult stuff in that. And a lot of people don't know that it's a lot of occult and paranormal stuff in that song.
Mhm.
It kind of puts me in mind of The Shining.
Yes, that's exactly that is what I think of with that song, and I think they came out about the same time. Jack Nicholson, God bless him, he did an amazing amazing job in that movie. But yes, it's that. It's also to me, and this is what I love about music is differences in interpretation. To me, it's more about mental health and
Oh,
like the psychiatric ward and what that
yep.
experience is like. These are patients that have mental health issues and they can't leave, and so that's kind of how I interpret the song as somebody who's not realizing where they are and that they need help and
Yeah, I
how
agree.
they're
That
interpreting their own mind.
I could see that. I can easily see that for sure.
Yeah. So
If
their
you could,
storytelling is compelling and it draws you in. And I really aspire to write the way that the Eagles write and to keep the attention of the audience long enough to really listen to the whole story and allow them room still to breathe and interpret it the way that they believe is the right way.
if you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, what band and what show would that be possibly?
Oh man. Oh, you're killing me with these questions. These are so
Killing me,
hard.
Smiles. Killing me, Smiles.
Oh, I would have to probably say Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Um, their live albums, they have a 4-track. Now I'm going back into the archives, literally like 30 years. I'm trying to think of the name of the album, but and this is when CDs was out, mind you, so that probably ages me. But it was a 4-disc album that they had, and I think it was like their greatest hits. And then they went out and took those songs live. So I would have to say it would be Led Zeppelin. I just can't think of the name of the album. Put me on.
That's good.
I'm like so embarrassed. But I'm also a huge Adele fan, and I'm a huge Lady Gaga fan, and I would love to collab with them. I would be just like bucket list are those two powerhouses.
Hey, I still collect CDs. I don't give up my CDs. I'm not giving up my collection. No, I mean
I know.
I'll buy the MP3 album, but I still want that physical copy in my hand. That's just where I am.
Yeah. Well, and I love seeing the vinyls coming back. It's made its way back. So you'll see a lot of bands carrying the vinyl
Yep.
of their EPs and albums now, which I think is awesome.
And then you had to buy 14. Yeah. And then you had to buy 14 pressings of the same album because they're different colors and they got this in it. It's like, stop.
Yep.
So what's been your most memorable show that you've been a part of that you still cannot believe to this day that you were?
I would say it was our debut show that just happened March 9th. It was the first time that our band collectively went live and performed our EP. And that was March 9th at Goldfield in Roseville, California. So it is the largest local entertainment venue in the area outside of, the big promotional Ace of Spades, which is overseen by Live Nation. So the smaller, more privately owned clubs in the Northern California region, it holds 600. So we had a showcase of local artists that night, and it was such an honor to be able to be a part and have our debut show there alongside many talented 5 other local artists that are up and coming and really just kind of blowing up on the scene. So I would definitely say, because it was our first and because we were surrounded by such talent locally, that is absolutely going to stay with us forever.
I want to say this right now. I've been doing this for 14 years. I've said this the first year I was even going into this. This is my slogan for every independent band out there, including yourself. There is so many bands that should be on labels, that deserve to be on labels, that their music is a lot better than some of these labels that they've got. Now, I'm telling you right now, your time's coming. It'll happen. A lot of them want to stay independent, and I totally get that. But there's a lot of local bands out there and underground bands, folks, you're sleeping on that are a lot better than some of these that you're seeing on tour right now. I'll just say that. Get away.
No, I 100% agree. There's so much talent to be had out there. It's unfortunate in the industry that we're so numbers focused, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you have bands like myself that are really trying hard to grow it organically, and that we want our fan base numbers on social media to really be our fans, it's hard to compete with other bands that have 100,000 plus followers, but you may go on a post of theirs and they only have 10 likes. The fan engagement is far more important to me as an artist than peaking those numbers out and them not even seeing the content that I'm putting out. It's like, why the hell do I want all these people that aren't even engaging with me? So it's a fine balance, and artists have to be true to themselves and their visions and where they want to go, and the roadmap that's going to take them to achieve that. And I respect that of all artists. If you want in the big leagues, you got to get those numbers boosted. But then you've got those that want to make it and just want it to grow organically. And like you said, the time will come. And as long as we are keeping the fans that we have happy, and we're growing with new fans that are really committed and loyal to the end product, if it helps to change one person's perspective in life on a time that's difficult for them, or to give them understanding, that's really all I'm looking for. Everything else will come naturally as it's meant to be.
And it's sad, like you said, it's all about the number game. If I don't have so many subscribers on YouTube, which I'm very fortunate to have 1,200, almost 1,260 some now, almost. I'm very fortunate and very blessed. Mm-hmm. But sadly, if I don't have 1.3 thousand, or I'm sorry, like 10.5K thousand, whatever, I'm not going to get these big interviews, but that's all right. That's all right, because I will still deliver bang for your buck, better interviews than some of the others. I'll put that straight out there. I do not care. It's how much confidence I have in myself.
I don't doubt that at all. And quality over quantity is really the game. And I fully respect that. And you're not deviating from who you are and what it is that you want to do. And it will happen. It will happen for you just the way it is meant to. And I have a firm belief in that.
Tiffany, how can folks stay in touch with Enemy of Fate? Pick up this 6-track EP, all the singles, everything under that name. How can they do that, ma'am?
You can find Enemy of Fate, Settle the Score, and all of our singles on all of the streaming sites. So Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Deezer, you name it, we are there looking up Enemy of Fate. And of course, you can follow us on all of our socials at Enemy of Fate Official.
I will have all these links in this interview when this interview goes live. So there's no excuse, folks. All the links are right here for you to check out with this amazing band. So everybody stick around. We got some great interviews coming up. And you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out and check out our YouTube page. As I said earlier, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe. That helps me out tremendously. And I love it. Honestly, just like she says, if one song touches somebody, that's their job done. Same with me. If somebody takes time out to watch one of my interviews, I've done my job. That's all I'm asking. Please get out and check out Enemy of Fate. Pick up this 6-track EP entitled Settle the Score, and also check out their single Dear Dad. Plus, they got other songs out there too. Check them out. Give them a fair shot. And Tiffany, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I wish you all nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.